People think houses keep memories. They don't. They keep echoes. The whispers you pretend you didn't hear, the footsteps you pretend didn't mean anything, the breaking points you pretend never happened. My name is Amara Hale, and for 16 years, my life was a quiet rehearsal in surviving someone else's storm. This is how the silence broke. From the outside, our home on the cliffs of Meriden Bay looked peaceful, perfect even. Wind-brushed lavender bushes leaned toward a white porch. Seagulls drifted lazily above the swaying pine trees. Neighbors always said the same thing when they walked by. The Hale family, they really have it all together. But houses lie. Windows lie. People lie. My family didn't function around love, fairness, or honesty. It functioned around Rowan, my older sister by 4 years. Rowan Hale was the kind of girl whose arrival made air rearrange itself. Tall, elegant, magnetic, terrifying. Mom called her an untamable spirit. Dad called her a brilliant storm. But storms aren't brilliant. They destroy. And growing up beside her felt like living inside the eye of one, quiet until the moment it wasn't. Rowan was the sun of our house, and I was the shadow that existed to prove the sun was bright. The first time I felt the wrongness, I was 9. Rowan was 13. She'd failed an advanced placement exam, barely missed the mark. To anyone else, it would have been disappointing but survivable. To Rowan, it was humiliation. I remember standing at the kitchen counter, filling a glass with water, when Rowan stormed in, eyes sharp. "You distracted me," she hissed. I blinked. I was just getting a drink. "You breathed too loud. It ruined my focus." I laughed softly because surely she was joking. She wasn't. Her hand shoved me, not enough to truly hurt, just enough to warn, to teach. Mom rushed in, wrapping Rowan in her arms like she was the victim. "She's under pressure, Amara. Be more thoughtful next time." Thoughtful, as if I had somehow knocked her test out of her hand. Dad barely glanced up from his newspaper. No one asked how I felt. Not then, not ever. From that moment on, I learned Rowan's moods like a second language. A slam drawer? She'd lost something. A heavy exhale? Someone upset her at school. A too quiet hallway? She was hunting for someone to punish. And every time, Mom whispered, "Please be patient with her, sweetheart. She's under a lot of pressure." Pressure. That word became a weapon. A shield for Rowan, a gag for me. By 13, I walked silently. By 14, I hid bruises beneath hoodies. By 15, I learned how to vanish from rooms before they entered them. The only person who ever noticed was Theo Rivers, the boy across the street. Theo, soft-spoken, observant, too kind for the world. He saw things my parents refused to see, like how I jumped when someone dropped a book, or how I froze when my name was yelled from another room. One afternoon, after Rowan ripped my sketchbook to shreds during a jealousy spiral, Theo found me behind my house on the curb, knees tucked to my chest. He sat beside me quietly before saying, "Amara, people who love you shouldn't feel like danger." I didn't answer, but his words burrowed deep. Soon after, I began documenting, not for revenge, for survival. Photos, dates, descriptions of every shove, threat, bruise, insult. I hid everything, the evidence box, in Theo's garage behind old lawn equipment. I didn't know what I was saving it for, but something in me suspected the day would come. The crack started slow. Rowan applied for a prestigious legal internship. It was her dream, her identity, her throne. But the acceptance never came. One quiet spring afternoon, the rejection letter arrived. She ripped it open by the porch. I saw her face drain of color even from inside the house. Then she slammed the door so hard the lavender bushes shook.
I knew the signs. Trouble was coming. I was upstairs finishing a digital portrait I planned to submit to an art competition, one that could earn a scholarship. I had no idea that art piece would be the last thing I created before everything shattered. Rowan stormed up the stairs, fury radiating off her like heat. Her gaze locked on me. You knew this would happen. Knew what? That I wouldn't get it. You always get everything you want. I didn't even apply to exactly. That's the problem. You do nothing, and somehow everything works out for you. She grabbed my tablet. I froze. Rowan, don't. She hurled it against the wall. It split in half. My breath vanished. That was your school, your stupid art, your pity habbies, they're nothing. I'm the one who matters in this family. Something in her eyes changed, a wildness I'd never seen, a danger I couldn't outrun. I stepped backward. She followed. You ruin everything. I tried to slip past her, but she shoved me, harder than ever. I stumbled toward the decorative pantry door. Cheap, thin, glass. Rowan, wait! She didn't wait. She charged. Both hands slammed against my shoulders. I flew back. Glass exploded around me. Shards ripped into my arms, my cheek, my neck. I hit the floor. Then everything went black. Comas aren't silent. They're rooms where you float between drowning and breathing, listening to secrets you were never meant to hear. I heard doctors murmuring about the extent of my injuries, nurses whispering about how rare it was for sibling violence to go this far, my mother sobbing, real, helpless sobs, my father whispering, "We should have stopped this. We should have seen." Rowan, crying not out of guilt, but of fear of consequences. Then a detective's voice cut through the haze. The injuries were not from a fall, they were from force. Another voice. The neighbor boy provided documentation, years of it. Theo. He'd given them the evidence box, my lifeline, my truth. Some nights I felt Theo beside my ICU bed reading articles, telling me stories, begging me to come back. Some nights, darkness felt easier. But then, one morning through the thickest fog, my fingers twitched, my eyelids fluttered, and the dark peeled open like a curtain. When I opened my eyes, the world felt too bright, too loud, too heavy, but I was alive. Mom was in the corner, hands covering her mouth. Dad stood stiff near the door. Neither came close, but the first person I truly saw was Theo. Head resting near my hand, eyes exhausted, hope and panic fighting in his expression. When my fingers moved, he choked on a breath. Amara? I couldn't speak, but I blinked, and that was enough. Doctors explained the surgeries, the swelling, the damage. They explained I'd been in a coma for 3 weeks. I took it all in quietly. But nothing devastated me more than what came next. Your sister has been charged. The evidence against her is substantial. My parents wanted to explain, to apologize, to claim ignorance. But the truth? They had chosen silence. I had survived it. I wouldn't survive going back. So when the social worker asked where I wanted to heal, I said, my Aunt Soraya. I want to live with her. And this time, the choice belonged to me. Recovery was slow and agonizing. Physical therapy, therapists, follow-up scans, but emotionally, I felt lighter than I ever had. Rowan's trial was brutal. The documentation I'd kept for years became the backbone of the case. Neighbors testified. Old teachers submitted concerns. Even Rowan's ex-friends admitted they feared her temper. My parents sat in the back row every day, shrinking a little more each time a new truth surfaced. Rowan stared at me once from the defendant's table. Her eyes were hollow. For the first time in my life, I realized she wasn't a storm. She was a void. A person who consumed everything around her until there was nothing left. The verdict was delivered on a cold November morning. Guilty. Aggravated assault. Reckless endangerment. Intent to harm. She would serve time. Mandatory therapy. Restraining orders. The system finally saw what I had lived through, and the glass between us, the glass that cut me, finally became the thing that saved me.
Months passed. I began studying art therapy, guiding teens who carried invisible bruises. Theo and I grew closer, not out of pity, but out of something quiet and steady, like a sunrise. My aunt's home became the place where I finally learned that safety isn't supposed to be earned through silence. One evening, while journaling at my desk, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A prison number? My chest tightened as I opened it. You ruined my life. Just remember, I'll be out someday. For a moment, fear slithered up my spine. But then I breathed. Calm, certain, different. I typed one sentence back. I don't live in your shadow anymore. Then I blocked the number. For good. I turned off the lights, opened the window, and let the ocean wind rush in. For the first time, the echo inside me didn't sound like fear. It sounded like freedom. People think houses keep memories. They don't. They keep echoes. But echoes fade, and I'm not a whisper anymore. I am my own voice, my own beginning, my own quiet victory. And to anyone listening, survival is not the end of your story. It's the start of the part you get to write for yourself. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Clara's Revenge for more intense, emotional revenge stories.